Dan.
All right, welcome everyone. We'll call the meeting to order at 18:33. This is the Public Works Committee meeting for November 24th, 2020. It's at 6:30 in the courthouse chambers. Here we are. I'll do a roll call. I'm present. Mr. Fisher is present. Mr. Callahan is present. Mr. Mankins is present. Mr. McDonough is present, and Mr. Frederickson is present, and Mark Neary, sorry about that, is present, and Michelle Shea. Okay. Item number 1 on the agenda, communication number 2020-139. Brendan McDonough, Commissioner District 8, requesting Council of Commissioners to consider that a speed study be conducted by the Montana Department of Transportation on Highway 2 from the 9 Mile to Pipestone Pass. With the upcoming recreational season approaching, I ask that a study and a decision be made in a timely manner to address the safety concerns for the spring and summer season. Mr. Neary, if you'd like to tell us about that.
Thank you, Chairman Olson. I turned in the email to MDOT, after we talked about it. We had our meeting on the 12th, and all they did is they just sent the official email to the Traffic Study Commission with MDT. So it's in their hands now, and then they'll just get back to us.
Okay, and I assume that we won't see that next week.
No, and I added everything else too, from Three Bears all the way out to the 9 Mile, and from Harrison Avenue on Highway 2 to the 9 Mile, and then from the 9 Mile to the county line.
Okay, so it's in their traffic study
Yep.
group, and they will work on it.
Yep.
Any idea how long that would take? Or I was just thinking, do we want to put this in suspense for 2 months? What would you think, Mr. Neary?
We don't meet again for Chairman Olson. We don't meet again for another 2 months. So.
Oh, no, for the MDT or okay, well, I was just thinking for Butte-Silver Public Works Committee, that rather than rehash it every other week for 2 months, probably we should put it in suspense until, when's their next meeting? Do you know? It'd be in February or
January.
Okay, and it's third Thursday or something like that. Is that what it is, or do you know?
It's sporadic.
Okay. I think we should put it in suspense until, let's say, January 15th. I don't know if there's a meeting there, but I'll come up with we'll put it in suspense until the second Public Works of the month. Mr. McDonough.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2 of us aren't going to be around anymore for a while, so I would recommend that we just leave it on the agenda so that the transition of the council happens. It's still at the front of their mind. I mean, just hold it in abeyance until we get to January.
Okay, that's probably a better idea, that at least the new folks that are taking over will remember it, and they can set up their agenda for the upcoming year. So we'll hold it in abeyance to the next meeting and on from that. Okay. Item number 2, communication number 2020-402. Michelle Shea, District 2 Commissioner, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence to place this communication in the Public Works Committee to review the traffic calming methods around the Whittier School area. Many citizens have expressed concern about the safety of the children in this area. Commissioner Shea, do you want to tell us a little bit about that and what you'd prefer to do, so.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there's nothing new to report other than Chairman Olson has scheduled a special meeting next Thursday, I believe, on the 3rd of December at 6 o'clock. So I believe everybody in this meeting was included on the email, and there'll be links sent out subsequently to access that meeting. So we'll know more at that time.
Okay. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chairman Olson. Just to keep this active a little bit, if anyone has ever driven, I don't know what street it is, it's just east of Continental, right by the Holy Spirit Church, where it intersects with Burlington. You'll see a lot of the neighbors there put up their own private little signs, these signs that say, neighbors drive slow, beware kids and dogs. I found that to be a pretty interesting idea when I drove through there the last couple of times going to a friend's house up on East Ridge. And I think that these kind of ideas where the public is getting involved and the neighbors are getting involved may have a lot more weight than the county trying to do ordinances and signs. And I know them flashing signs were great, but that really did influence a lot of interest in me. And, I'm all for this meeting we're going to have next week. And with Cassie and John, Todd Horn, them. I think in the past, some of us who are on this committee, we found that sometimes when you do those things, we get a little more in depth to ADA and crosswalks and ramping and stuff like that, and that's all a good idea, but it's just not feasible in the money wise. So I'm looking forward to our meeting on the 2nd or 3rd of, I guess it was the 3rd of December, the correction. But I guess we all, if have time, should take a look at those little signs and maybe have an opinion about that, because they kind of caught my attention a little more than, council trying to make rules and regulations. As you can see, we're having that trouble with the health department now, the divide we're having there and stuff. But I think these little signs that are pretty inexpensive and the neighborhood's doing them, I think they look like a good idea. So that's just something I'd like everyone to look at. And I look forward to our meeting. Thank you, Chairman Olson. Thank you, Commissioner Shea.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Frederickson.
Thanks, Chairman Olson. And this is what I was going to talk about, but I've actually heard from one of my constituents on that Burlington stretch complaining about speeding, so I don't know how well those signs really work. But I appreciate that comment on the signs, and I think that everything should be on the table, and I don't think it hurts to have Todd and Cassie come in and speak to us. My question is for the chairman. I've had a couple constituents throw out some ideas to me about speeding, and so I was wondering if I could share that link with them so they could sit in on the meeting. Would that be possible? I mean, I know it's a public meeting, so are we able to do that, I guess?
I think that would be appropriate. Anybody have a problem with doing that?
I mean, I'll say that I don't, if they have any questions or if anything, they can bring them to me and then I can bring them to the committee, but I think it would be worth, and I only have one or two and maybe one will even show up. But I think it would be good, kind of the people that talk to me a lot, if they could sit in on it, I think that would be great.
Okay. Mr. Neary.
Thank you, Chairman Olson. One thing about that is make sure that the link is sent through IT, not from one of us. We have an issue with that.
Okay.
So yeah, just make sure it goes through IT.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Director Neary. I did not know that. And they might not even show up, but one of the ideas that I have on this is, and when we went on the walk around Whittier, was I feel like, a lot of the people on the streets, I would like them to take ownership of it, whether if they want a roundabout or if they want these signs that they paint in the middle of the intersection. I would like for them to take more ownership of it, and I would help them is kind of the idea that I'm thinking, rather than just saying, you know, we're going to throw up another sign. And so I was, that's just where my mind's going right now. So thank you.
Okay. I'm going to ask BSB MIS, is that the proper email place to make that request for Commissioner Frederickson?
Sorry, Sean, Commissioner Frederickson, if you want to make the request on adding people, the best place to send it to is actually BSB help desk,
Oh, okay.
which I'm just creating a ticket right now since Dan hasn't brought this to us yet. And I want to make sure, like what Mark said, that it's sent out through us and we get it all set up properly. So,
Okay.
all right.
And that was my mistake because I think I said it to BSB MIS. Is that?
Oh,
So
help desk.
help desk. I really need that IT help. Okay, so it would be BSB help desk. Okay, at the usual.
And I also will comment, we had one of those little signs that say, drop like your children live here, and it had a little flag, and it got stolen.
Well, maybe they're popular because it works.
I don't think it was people stealing it to put in front of their house either. I think it might have went up to the next kegger or whatever. If even kids even have keggers anymore, I don't know.
Okay.
You're showing your age, Sean Frederickson. You're showing your age.
Okay, so we'll hold that in advance until the next meeting, and we'll have that meeting on the 3rd of December, Thursday, at 6 p.m., and we'll send out a link to everything. Item number 3, communication number 2020-409, Dave Palmer, Chief Executive, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence for this communication to be placed in the Public Works Committee for an evaluation. Suzanne Crossman, 2837 State Street, has asked that stop signs be placed at the intersection of Banks and State Street and Yale and Porter Street. The intersections have become dangerous with the amount of traffic going through and people speeding. I think we've kind of grouped that with the overall problem of speeding in Butte through residential neighborhoods. And so I was thinking that we would cover that also in the meeting on the 3rd. Any discussion on that, folks? Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, Chairman Olson. So I know that Todd and Cassie are not intending to address speeding at large throughout the entire community. You know, our focus of our walkabout, our walking audit was really focused around the school and looking at the issues that were around there. Not to say that I don't want to address all of the other issues, but I don't want to make issues around a school and subsequently other schools into a bigger issue that we get to a point where we can't solve the issues that we're having around the schools. And that's just for the record. I don't expect any response. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's, I don't want to dilute either of these issues, but they seem to be common with me, but it might be worthwhile to see if Ms. Crossman might want to attend the meeting also and at least see what's going on, make her aware of the community or the meeting that we're having so she could tune in and see what's going on. So, okay, Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chairman Olson. I think we may want to ask Public Works Director Neary. The request is for stop signs, and I think when we first spoke about this some time ago, if we are going to make change on stop signs, the study's got to be changed, and I think we're going to do an ordinance change there. So I'm not certain that grouping these two together totally is a good idea. I mean, I don't mind happening that way for the idea, but I think the stop sign study is pretty much a written ordinance at this time, and the study amount of vehicles going through a stop sign, that's where we left that off last time. I think it was like 150 cars an hour or something like that, which we don't ever see that anywhere. So if Mr. Neary would weigh in, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Neary?
Thank you, Chairman Olson. Commissioner Fisher, I think that was Chief Executive Palmer's point after we talked about it, was to see what we can do to change what would warrant a stop sign. I think that everybody feels that it's 250 cars an hour, and actually there isn't a street in town that would probably warrant it. And I think that's kind of what he was looking at, is maybe changing the ordinance, or looking into a different set of rules that we could go by.
Okay, yeah. Commissioner McDonough.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regards to stop signs, I mean, I've always believed that nobody has any control of how many cars drive past their residence in an hour. I don't know that it's a concern of how much traffic. We're not necessarily regulating traffic or how many cars can pass a residence. Everybody's heartburn is the habitual speeder that lives in their neighborhood. It's the offenders. I asked the question, and I guess it's up to the judge when it comes to a speeding ticket. They can set the ticket fine, but I would be interested in, I think it would be worthwhile to put a minimum speeding ticket fine in an ordinance, so that, even though the judge has discretion, if we could put a little teeth in the ordinance and put like a minimum fine that somebody would have to pay, which is pretty substantial, I think it would curb a lot of it. That's my take. I mean, I think enforcement is going to be a big issue.
Okay. I think we've discussed that too, and that's an option. And now, are you considering speeding through a residential district and or a school district as having a base fine or a minimum fine, or all speeding?
Well, I think that it would be worth looking at the ordinance to see in all of that. I mean, especially in a school zone, around parks and schools where there's a little more foot traffic. I think that I would definitely look to see if we couldn't do something. Of course, we could get it started. I'll stay involved even after I'm off here at the end of the month. But I think the enforcement and the ticket fine is a big deterrent to people. If you hit them once in the pocketbook hard enough, you hate to be heavy-handed, but sometimes people just need to pay a fine, and it corrects the issue. At least it does with me. If I have.
Okay. Commissioner Mankins? There you go.
Thank you, Chairman Olson and Commissioner McDonough. I believe, though, through a school zone, we already do double. So again, it goes back to like you were talking about with enforcement. I think you have to get the ticket in order to have it doubled. So going back to that is where it really lies at, because around every school, for the majority, is 15 miles an hour. Around parks, teaching driver's education for 14 years has you explain this to kids summer after summer after summer, but still it seems to be that you still need to get a ticket in order for you to get it doubled. So it's going to be at that again. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chairman Olson. The communication asks for an evaluation by Chief Executive Palmer, and for Suzanne Crossman, it actually asks for stop signs to be placed at them locations. And the way the ordinance is now in the study, we don't have the authority to do that right now. So this communication is probably becoming a little outdated until we change the ordinance for stop signs. We really can't say that we can put stop signs up at Yale and Porter or Banks and State Street because the ordinance don't allow it. So we might be getting a little ahead of ourselves here. We might be, I mean, I'd be willing to make a motion if we thought it was necessary or all this, but I think that we're in a position as the Public Works Committee that we are probably to the point we're going to have to note and file this communication because until we change the ordinance or make another plan. So I would like, see what everyone else thinks, but probably not a bad idea to maybe note this and place it on file because I don't think we can answer their concerns the way it's written at this point.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fisher. Mr. Frederickson.
Yeah, Commissioner Fisher pretty much read my mind on this. We have two different intersections that aren't really that close to each other. Yale and Porter are close to Whittier School. Banks and State Street are not. So we got two different intersections that are about 3 or 4 blocks away from each other. The intersection at Banks and State, there's already a stop sign at Sheridan and State, and then it goes Banks, and then there's a stop sign at Sherman and State. So I don't know if putting another stop sign there on every single block is going to solve this problem. And as far as Yale and Porter, maybe it's probably the same exact situation there. There's stop signs all over the place. This isn't going to solve the problem, and we have no teeth to actually put in another stop sign. So I would agree with Commissioner Fisher and back his motion, or if we even need a motion to note and place this on file.
Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chairman Olson. I would make a motion at this file communication 2020-409.
Second.
Okay. Who was the second? Mr. Frederickson. Okay. Then moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that? Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, Chairman Olson. I would like Director Neary maybe to speak that we can put a stop sign wherever we want to. We don't have to have an ordinance to do that. Is that correct?
Mr. Neary?
Chairman Olson, Commissioner Shea, I think we can put them wherever we want, but if people don't stop, they can't. If they got a ticket, they could fight the ticket. Without having it recorded and in the ordinance, I think that's the proper procedure.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Shea.
Thank you. No more from me.
Commissioner Callahan.
I would like to say that enforcement is probably the biggest issue we have in this whole thing. Until we can get some kind of enforcement, we can put up all the stop signs, all the speed signs you want, but you can double the fines, you can do all that, but you still have to enforce it. If there's no enforcement, you're just throwing money away. We got to work on that end as well. Thanks.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by aye or thumbs up.
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Frederickson, did you said aye? Okay, so it's unanimous to note and place on file. Okay, and just a little note on that. What I was thinking is we might also invite someone from the Sheriff's Department to the traffic calming meeting also, just in case the enforcement issue comes up, and maybe we can bring it up with them at that point also. Okay. All right. I don't think we have any other business. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned at 6:58. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Chairman Olson.
Thank you.